In the world of the Project Management Institute, we often address project management for project managers, program managers, and so on, but we forget the C-level executives who need to understand project management in a different context. For that reason, about a decade ago, I wrote a book called Project Management Mid-Level to C-Level because it's important for people to understand project management from a different lens. Now, projects are the lifeblood that moves an organization from point A to point B. It moves a company from its current state to its future state. But project management goes deeper than that, and that's why I've put together a model called the Improve Framework. And the purpose of this framework, called the Improve Framework, is to help C-level executives better understand and get sensitized to the importance of projects from an innovative standpoint, from an entry to market standpoint, and therefore from a portfolio, program, and project standpoint to be more holistic. So let's discuss a strategic approach to business success. When you think about project management as being the lifeblood of a business to move it forward, we need to understand the complex world of business to start with. Business could be very complex. You have threats all around you. You have threats of new entrants into the marketplace that could usurp your authority or dominance in the market space. You have bargaining power of suppliers having an ability to influence the terms and conditions of supply. You have bargaining powers of buyers. The bargaining powers of buyers relates to their ability to influence the terms of the purchase, such as negotiating lower prices or demanding higher quality from you. You also have threat of substitute products or services from competitive organizations. You also have one more factor according to Michael Porter, and that is the intensity of competitive rivalry. Competitive rivalry evaluates the level of competition among existing firms. Factors like the number, the size of competitors, market growth rate, and so on. So as a C-level executive, your question needs to be, what is the right mix of projects, programs, and portfolios to reduce these threats, to put us in the most advantageous position? And for that reason, we have project management, because when you boil it all down, what is going to move an organization forward is the projects, the programs, but very importantly, the portfolio oversight. So the world of business has changed, and it's no longer just a competency for project managers when we say project management. It's crucial for C-level executives such as CEOs, COOs, CIOs to understand the PPP landscape. To understand what will lead to success is the right mix of the trifecta of PPPs. Now, this is where my unique model, called the Improve model, comes to play. Let's examine what exactly I mean when I say improve, because it's not just a buzzword. In the Improve model, I stands for identify. It's important that C-level executives identify projects that align with overall business strategy, and those that don't, those are the projects we want to avoid. Those are the projects we want to kill before they become crazy and kill us, as many organizations have learned the hard way. So we want to identify the necessary resources for each project, talking about the personnel, the budget, and the time. Some organizations have very little shortage of this, but the question is, are their people, their resources being used the right way? So when we're identifying the projects that align with our overall business strategy, we're also in the same vein talking about higher level programs with clusters of projects and the ultimate portfolios in the different business units. And it honestly is the job of the leadership in the business units to think, what is the best mix? How can I best mix these options to get the best bang for my buck, to be relevant in the marketplace, to burst through the challenges that I talked about in the beginning? The second one is you need to measure. The M in improve is measure the potential value or return on investment of each project to help prioritize them. You know, in the world of Agile, we have a role called the product owner, and the role of the product owner is to understand value of every item in the backlog, to know when those items should be injected into the mix, when they should be done. So we want to measure the potential value or the return on investment. We want to measure the progress of those ongoing endeavors using suitable metrics to ensure they stay on track. We want to measure the effectiveness of the project management tools and technologies that are in use. In a lot of companies, they allow free rein to use any and everything under the sun. And while their intentions are well-meaning, they are foolish and misguided, because where there is no repeatable process, how do you improve? You don't. So we need to measure not only the projects, but also the effectiveness of the tools, the process, the frameworks that we're using. We also need to put them under the microscope to ensure that we're using the best tools and the best process and the best frameworks for projects of a certain nature. For example, you're using a sledgehammer to put a nail in the wall. That's no good. A lot of people using big old predictive methods for projects that should be more agile, and the FBI found this out the hard way. In the virtual case file project in the early 2000s, they tried to replace their antiquated system by using predictive methods. Didn't work. Well, several years later, they realized there was a better mousetrap. It took one person to speak up and to change the course and to begin to use agile approaches. And that's how it eventually got done. Without an agile mindset, they would have been using the wrong tools. The P in improve is prioritize. You got to prioritize projects based on alignment with business strategy, potential value, and feasibility. This has to be done through effective portfolio management. You got to prioritize resource allocation based on needs and importance. Don't be moved by projects that sound good or cool. The question is this value? That's number one. And number two, in terms of prioritization, the criticality of these projects. Should we be doing this now or not? Now, there are many ways you could prioritize. You could prioritize based on value, but you also need to remember urgency. You also need to ask the question, how important is it that we have this project's outcome or output? And sometimes a project may not be that high visibility at first until you look under the hood and you're like, oh my goodness, this is the number one project. And there are organizations that have learned that through their operating policies and procedures, when they allow the portfolio managers and just generally in the organization, they allow the current flow from what is important to go up to the higher levels. And what I would say to C-level executives is, don't be closed-minded, be open-minded to hear from your people. In the same token, an example from Microsoft. I know many of us use Microsoft projects, Microsoft products, and Microsoft projects, so we can relate. But the story goes that Bill Gates had Internet Explorer as number 6 on his agenda until someone escalated the importance of that project to number 1. That individual took a trip to Cornell University and found that the internet was the way forward. The same way some of you realizing technology such as AI is the way forward and you're trying to shut it down. Don't shut it down. Let your people get to know more about AI, because the future of your organization could very well be in AI. So when we talk about prioritization, there needs to be the voice of reason and the voice of enlightenment being allowed to speak and to communicate to you as the C-level executives. Because only then are you going to be sensitized to what is important, what is relevant. Remember, you hired adults and you hired people who can not only do their work, but who can assist you to do your job better. So you got to prioritize risk mitigation strategies for high-risk elements, and it comes from dialogue and trust. The R in the improved model is all about resolve. You got to resolve any issues that arise during the execution of a project in a timely and efficient manner. One of the best ways I've seen while at Motorola, one of the best ways I've seen is the open door policy, where your people are allowed to escalate in a timely and effective manner so that you can take action. Resolve resource allocation issues to ensure that no project is under or over-resourced, and resolve any misalignments between projects and business strategy as soon as they are detected. The O in improve stands for obtain. You got to obtain the necessary resources, tools, and technologies. You better believe it when your people tell you resources of a certain nature are absolutely critical. Obtain feedback from those individuals, teams, and stakeholders regularly. And be sure to encourage lessons learned. Lessons learned are so important. Get a lessons learned from each project. If your firm is embarking on project after project and there's no lessons learned database, no lessons learned repository, no lessons learned register, oh my goodness, you're just pouring all of your sweat equity into a sieve. You're just throwing it into a bottomless garbage can, because the lessons that you learn are there as equity to help you maximize your efforts in future projects and even current projects. So develop a culture of lessons learned. If your people aren't gathering and sharing the lessons learned and implementing the lessons learned, they're really not lessons learned, they're lessons to be learned. But when you take the lessons and you put them back into production, then we're talking about lessons learned. The V in the model is verify. You got to verify that each project is progressing as planned and is still aligned with business strategy. Too many executives doing the wrong thing, getting their people once a week to show status and traffic lights, and that is just not a sustainable approach. Gone are the days of ignorance where we will gather around a board or gather around a virtual meeting once a week. This needs to be a fluid, dynamic, ever-changing mindset where we are always looking at the latest and greatest, not waiting till the next week. That's too late. In the world of Agile, we say that business people and developers have got to work together daily throughout the project. We talk about working product being the primary measure of progress. So you need to move away from that predictive mindset of seeing things once a week. No, see things on the regular. Verify the effective usage of allocated resources and make sure your risk mitigation strategies were actually effective. The E stands for evaluate. Evaluate the success of each project upon completion, considering its objectives, budget, timeline, and other KPIs. And one of the most important KPIs is a net promoter score, the level of value that has been delivered. In the world of the PMI, we talk about a benefits register, a benefits management plan. You want to make sure that the benefits you were seeking in the very beginning are indeed realized. So evaluate the effectiveness of project management practices as well, make necessary adjustments, and evaluate the learnings from each project and apply them to current projects and future projects. And that is the improved framework for projects, programs, and portfolios to help C-level executives focus on the right stuff. Remember, the world of business is so dynamic. You got to master the art of project management. It's now a fundamental requirement. It's no longer just a competency for project managers. The C-suite needs to understand project management. They need to be able to align projects with business strategy. They need to be able to influence the portfolio, not just letting portfolio managers do what they are trying to do, but to help the portfolio managers think at a higher vision plus strategy plus the PPP. That's what they need to be doing. They need to be working with the business in removing roadblocks and obstacles and listening to the heartbeat of those doing the work, the boots on the ground. Not to be so far off from the boots on the ground, but to get their feet and hands wet. It's like that show on TV where the C-level folks wear disguise and go in. Well, I wish some C-level execs could go into the projects and be part of the team for a day. My goodness, start that initiative. You'll be amazed at what you learn and how you can elevate the game of your team. All right, my friends, I hope you found this to be valuable. If you are looking for the book, you may be able to find that book on Amazon. I would highly recommend you get a coach for project management. So I put my shameless plug right here. If you need a coach, a mentor, someone who can train, coach, mentor you from the C-level perspective on how you can up the game of your firm, don't hesitate to be in touch. You take care and bye for now.